In the heart of the Seychelles, where the ocean's waves gently kiss the shore and the lush forests rise tall and proud, there lies a tale whispered among the villagers for generations. This tale is of the Mougou, a spirit neither man nor beast, but something that existed in the space between. The story begins long ago, in a time when the islands were still young, and the balance between man and nature was delicate, held together by respect, fear, and the unseen forces of the land. In those days, the villagers lived simple lives, in harmony with the nature that surrounded them. They fished the bountiful seas, harvested the fruits of the earth, and offered thanks to the spirits that they believed guarded their land. The Mougou was the guardian of the island, a being of immense power tasked with maintaining the balance of the natural world. It was said that the Mougou could see into the hearts of men, judging them by their actions and intentions, rewarding those who lived in harmony with nature, and punishing those who sought to disrupt it. The villagers told stories of the Mougou to their children, warning them never to stray too far into the forest, lest they incur the spirit's wrath. But as time passed, the memory of the Mougou began to fade. The new generation, emboldened by their growing knowledge and skill, began to see themselves as the true masters of the land. They hunted more than they needed, cleared more forest than they could farm, and took more from the earth than they could ever give back. And in doing so, they awoke the Mougou from its slumber. The first signs of the Mougou's displeasure were subtle. The fish in the sea became scarce, the fruits of the trees grew small and bitter, and the once calm seas turned rough and unpredictable. The elders of the village, who still remembered the old ways, warned the younger generation that they were treading a dangerous path, but their warnings went unheeded. The young men laughed at the old stories, believing them to be nothing more than tales told to frighten children. But the Mougou was real, and its anger was growing. One day, a group of hunters set out into the forest, determined to prove their superiority over the old ways. They ventured deeper into the woods than any had gone before, driven by the promise of game that would feed the village for weeks. As they pushed through the dense underbrush, they came upon a clearing unlike any they had seen. In the center stood a great tokamaka tree, its roots twisting and coiling like serpents around a mound of earth. The air in the clearing was heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. One of the hunters, a man named Karif, the boldest and most reckless of the group, stepped forward. "This is the place," he declared, his voice brimming with confidence. "This is where we will find our prey." But the others hesitated. There was something about the place that felt wrong, something that made their hearts pound with fear. They tried to convince Karif to turn back, to leave the clearing and return to the village, but he would not listen. "Are you all cowards?" he scoffed. "There is nothing here but an old tree and some wild tales. If you're too frightened to continue, then go back. I will hunt alone." With that, Karif raised his spear and marched into the clearing. The others, ashamed of their fear, followed reluctantly, their eyes darting nervously around the clearing. They spread out, searching for any sign of game, but there was nothing. No tracks, no sounds, not even a rustle of leaves. The forest was eerily silent, as if holding its breath. As they moved deeper into the clearing, Karif's eyes fell upon the mound of earth beneath the tokamaka tree. Something glinted in the dappled sunlight that filtered through the canopy. Curious, he approached and began to dig with his hands. His fingers brushed against what felt like stone, and as he cleared away more of the dirt, he realized it was a statue, carved from a single piece of stone. The statue was of a creature unlike any Karif had ever seen. It had the body of a man, but its head was that of a beast, with sharp teeth bared in a snarl and eyes that seemed to glint with malice. Its hands were outstretched, as if reaching for something, and its feet were rooted deep into the earth. There was something unsettling about the statue, something that made Karif's skin crawl, but he pushed the feeling aside. "Look," he called to the others. "I found something." The other hunters gathered around, their eyes widening as they saw the statue. "It's the Mougou," one of them whispered, his voice trembling with fear. "We should leave this place." But Karif laughed. "It's just a statue," he said. "There's no spirit here, only stone. And who knows, maybe there's treasure buried beneath it." With that, he continued to dig, his hands working feverishly to uncover more of the statue. The others watched in silence, their fear growing with each passing moment. And then, as Karif's hands brushed against the statue's outstretched fingers, something strange happened. A low rumble echoed through the forest, and the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The hunters froze, their eyes wide with terror as they realized they had made a grave mistake. The Mougou was no mere statue. It was the guardian of the forest, the spirit that had watched over the island for centuries. And now, it had been awakened. The ground beneath the Tokomaka tree split open with a deafening crack, and the statue began to move. The Mougou rose from the earth, its eyes glowing with an eerie light, its body shifting and writhing as if made of shadows. It towered over the hunters, its presence overwhelming, its power undeniable. The hunters fell to their knees, their hearts pounding with fear and regret. They knew there was no escape, no way to undo what they had done. The Mougou's voice, deep and resonant, filled the clearing. "Who dares to disturb the balance of the land?" it demanded, its tone laced with anger. "Who dares to defile the sacred earth?" Karif, trembling with fear, tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. The Mougou's eyes bore into him, piercing through to his very soul. "You have taken more than you need," the spirit intoned. "You have disrespected the natural order. For this, you must pay the price." With a wave of its hand, the Mougou summoned the forces of nature to its aid. The wind howled through the clearing, whipping around them with the fury of a storm. The hunters cried out in terror, but their voices were drowned out by the roar of the elements. Karif, still clutching the statue, felt the ground give way beneath him. He tried to pull free, but the roots tightened their grip, dragging him down. In his final moments, he looked up at the Mougou, his eyes filled with regret. But the spirit's gaze was unforgiving. "You sought to take what was not yours," the Mougou said, its voice echoing through the forest. "And now, the earth reclaims you." With a mighty tug, the roots pulled Karif and the other hunters into the ground. The earth closed over them, and the clearing fell silent once more. The Mougou, its task complete, slowly sank back into the earth, the statue sealing itself into place. The forest, once again, was still. The villagers, hearing the terrible sounds from the forest, knew that something dreadful had occurred. When the hunters did not return, they understood that the Mougou had taken its due. From that day forward, they vowed to honor the old ways, to take only what they needed, and to live in harmony with the land. The story of the Mougou and the hunters was passed down through the generations, a warning to all who would dare to disrupt the balance of nature. And though the forest was peaceful once more, the villagers knew that the Mougou still watched over them, ready to rise again if ever the balance was threatened. And so, the legend of the Mougou lived on, a tale of power, respect, and the enduring strength of the natural world.